Indentated. Yes. Here we go. Hello, I'm Justin the Canadian Tuxedo. Welcome to the channel. Today we'll be talking about the new album by Fontaines DC entitled Skinty Fia. This is the third studio album by Fontaines DC and was produced by Dan Carey, who's produced albums for Franz Ferdinand, Black Midi, Grimes, Block Party, and Bat for Lashes, as well as producing the band's previous records. This album took me by surprise. I hadn't heard any of the band's music prior to hearing this record, and right from the top, this album had me captivated. There's a hypnotic quality to the sound of this band. The band mixes elements of post-punk, college rock, surf, and electronica. This record sounds like the kind of album you'd listen to after or maybe even during an evening of bad decisions. This is nighttime music. This album goes to some really dark places. I love the drums on this album. It's one of the things that really stands out. The drums are always doing some sort of interesting groove, and the bass parts are also really groovy and dirty. The guitars are simple but effective, and they convey the emotional sentiments of the songs very well. And I feel like the band really have a good chemistry that feels put together but not put on or forced. And the vocals have this disenchanted quality to them. There's a lot of cynicism and a lot of really dark themes at play all over this record. I don't listen to a lot of post-punk records, but this one really grabbed me, and it's one of the most interesting records I've heard this year. So let's dive into the album, shall we? Alright, I'm not even gonna try to say the opening cut's title. I'm just gonna put it on the screen because I'm just gonna butcher it, so just bear that in mind. The album opens with a singular bass that drones underneath the track. There are some haunting harmonized backing vocals. The song kind of makes me think of Block Party, particularly in the vocal delivery. The way that the track develops and the type of drum grooves here really makes me think of the song like Eating Glass. One of the most interesting techniques used in this song is how minimal the range within the vocal melody is. As the song changes and develops around the vocal, the melody takes on a new emotional depth and has new weight to it. This is used to great effect, and it's as if you're not really seeing the whole picture until the end of the song. This track really grabbed me from the start and had me hooked. The production is very tasteful, allowing the band to just vibe through the track while adding atmospheric embellishments with pulsating noise guitars and swirling vocal delays. While this song is harrowing, it's also alluring and gives the album so much promise. It's a great album opener. Big Shot comes in with this syncopated drum groove underneath the spacious, almost surfy guitar. The riff is very memorable and really sells the emotion of the song. The vocal is menacing, crooning over this spacious dirge. There's some really cool guitar tones that come in on the second verse. It almost sounds like a distorted electric piano maybe. The song basically sits on two chords most of the time, but the way the arrangement intensifies over this course of this track, it makes you forget about that, and you just get lost in the darkness within the song. This particular song deals with narcissism and ego, and this song is so brooding and melancholic and full of cynicism, which is a central theme within this album. On the track How Cold Love Is, there's a simple refrain that has this call and response vocal, and then there's something about this song that makes me think of Blur or Oasis, in particular with the vocal delivery. It's sung with this irreverent conviction, very Noel Gallagher-like. The guitars sparkle and shine over a really unique drum groove. The song deals with the toxicity of a relationship with addiction, the intoxicating symbiotic codependency that can make you feel like heaven until it hurts like hell. It's harrowing and kind of makes me think of something that could have been used in Requiem for a Dream. It's interesting how the lyrics can seem very pedestrian and simple, but I think the chemistry of the performances and the production, added with the simple bitterness of the lyrics, really sells the song. Then we get Jackie Down the Line, which was one of the singles off this album. It has such a cool groove that comes in with this Fender 6, which is kind of like a mix between a bass and a guitar. I get a lot of Pixies vibes on this song from the arrangement and songwriting. Something about this song also makes me think of Guns of Brixton by The Clash. Similar chords and structure, but just kind of slower. I love there's this little part that's like do do do, la la la. And this happens before the verses, and it sounds so sarcastic, but it's real subtle, but it adds something real special to the song. This song sounds like it's a radio single, and that's not a bad thing. It's just really catchy. The vocal melody is really captivating. There are some really cool guitar parts on here that make me think of like Stray Cats. I love the vibrato effects on the guitars. They're very tasty. The song has a very self-deprecating quality to it, as if to let you know that this is a particularly manipulative, toxic person who will get close to you and eventually hurt you. And it's delivered like a warning. This song got like stuck in my head almost immediately. And I also love the drums. There's a very unique groove to this particular song. It has an almost hip-hop meets Britpop vibe to it. It's probably my favorite track on the album. Up next is Bloomsday, which starts with a slide surfy guitar and slow trudging groove. This song made me think of the Pixies' Wave of Mutilation, but like the UK surf version. They share a very similar production style. There's so much space in this song, and it really pushes the loneliness and longing in the vocals of the song. The vocal melody is very simple and almost lullaby-like, and I love that the guitar tones are very menacing. The song is beautifully gut-wrenching. There's an interesting thing about the chord changes in this song, as they resolve in a familiar cadence and then almost immediately dissolve back into darkness. This song is kind of like, you know, when you talk smack about your hometown or, you know, where you're from, and it's like almost nostalgic when you do it, and if you were like an outsider doing this, you'd be a jerk. It's an interesting theme to weave into a song, and I think this song does it really well. It's a very clever song, and it's also one of my faves on this album as well. On the track, Roman Holiday follows this up and comes in sounding a bit like Echo and the Bunnymen. There's a tight drum sound and an unsettling, distorted guitar track that's drenched in delay and reverb. It's got such a great melodic hook to it. There are heavily affected acoustic guitars underneath this, and then the vocal comes in with tons of analog delay that's almost feeding back and sputtering out of control. The song is so simple, but it's also very hypnotic. You almost can't help but get lost in the darkness of the music. And the production is full of swirling and delay and reverb, but never really feels washed out. It's a tricky balance, but they do it very well on this particular song. And like many on this album, the drum grooves are really driving force, and they really take this song from what could have been just really a bit maybe dark and dull and really add some energy to it. Then we have The Couple Across the Way, which is probably the first song I've heard in a long while that relies on accordion as its central accompaniment. It's the most simple arrangement on this album, but it gives this song so much weight and contrast. Something about this song makes me think of Radiohead or The Strokes. There's a very natural quality to the song. It's a great moment of restraint and really adds to this album. There's some roomy piano that comes in towards the end of the song and adds some depth and levity. And I love that the song highlights the nuances of a relationship that's had time to seed, and there's a certain mundanity and familiarity that occurs when you know each other so well that you know all their secrets. This is juxtaposed against a couple who are just moved in and are still in the honeymoon discovery phase of their relationship. It's a meditation on the intimacy of relationships, and it's very powerful in its simplicity. Next we have the title track, Skinty Fia. This song has probably one of the coolest grooves on this album. It makes me think of 90s electronic music meets Britpop. There's some cool effects on the drums and some kind of distorted tape echoes. The bass has this cool pocket with the drums. And there's a lot of tension within the instrumental. The vocal has this sort of Ian Curtis vibe to it, has this rap delivery to it. I love the way this song develops and builds tension to a boiling point. And it's interesting, the song is almost 4 minutes long and it just breezes by you really quickly. It's a solid track towards the end of the album. On the song I Love You, which is the second single that comes off this album, it opens with a bass guitar part as the band starts to fade in from darkness. The guitar has this vibe that makes me think of The Cure, with its angular chorus guitar sound. The drum groove is really cool, like much of this album. This band really plays with dynamics naturally here by dropping elements in and out of the song and then building them back in with this chaotic, loud crescendo. The vocals soar and play in the pockets of the drums, and the band moves together as like an instrument of release. I feel like this song should have closed the album personally. I think it would have served as a really dark and menacing, chaotic way to end this album, but nonetheless it's a really solid track. On the closer, Nabokov, hopefully I pronounced that one correctly, this one sounds like it feeds off the tension that built by the previous track, and for some reason this song didn't really sit with me as well as the rest of the record. It's mostly made up of chaotic jamming and continuing to build tension. And there are similar elements of this done better in the rest of the track list, I think. And by the time you've gotten to this song, I was kind of exhausted, and I tried to listen to the song out of context to see if my opinion might change, but I just didn't really bond with it like I did with the rest of the record. And I feel like it could have been left off the track list, and that the album could have ended before this song came in. I'm sure other people will disagree with me, and that's totally fine. This song just didn't really do much for me, and it wasn't the best way to close out the album, I think. Overall, I think with the exception of the last track, this is a really great record, and it's a really great post-punk album.
This is music you listen to in the dark. It's brooding, menacing, and full of venom.
I think this album speaks to the emotions of the times we're living in. This is a sort of dark time, historically speaking, and I think music tends to be reactionary to the times. The songs are very simple and primitive, but the production and performances here are done so well and with harrowing conviction. I do feel like this album takes a lot out of the listener emotionally, and I found that towards the end of the album I was very fatigued, but that's just how I felt about it. I think after this I'm probably going to dive into the rest of the band's discography and just see what else they've been putting out. I'm looking forward to seeing what else the band has in their discography. And I think this is going to be a really big record for this band. This record is going to bring them a lot of fans, I think, just like myself. I think it's a solid album overall, and I'm going to give this album 4 denim jackets out of 5. It's an exciting record for post-punk, and it's an exciting album within 2022. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you think I should review next, or if there's any other post-punk records I should check out. Stay weird, my friends, and I'll catch you on the B-side.